So the year is 1986. There was a great record that came out the year before on, I think, Steeplechase record that featured Bley and Chet Baker as a duet. Fantastic, very nighttime music, and it was a beautiful record. And I thought, well, we have to have that in the jazz festival, because when I fall in love with a record, I always want to reproduce it on stage. And Paul and Chet knew each other pretty well, but they had not performed together that often. So I called Chet's agent in Holland, the same guy who owned the record company. It wasn't that Steeplechase, was Timeless Records, sorry. Wim Witt, I called the guy, and I asked him if Chet would do it. He said, well, yeah, probably, but you know that the kind of risk you're taking when you're booking a Chet Baker concert, he's not always up to it. And I said, well, I don't mind, the record is great, it's not that complicated, it won't involve a band, but just Paul Bley that we know pretty well, so I think that it should fly, you know. So, so we booked the show. It was very complicated because Chet did not show up on the proper day. He only showed up the day after, the day of his show actually, so he flew from Europe. We organized the whole flight in the morning because he had missed his flight the night before. It was pretty tensed, and then he showed up and was really not in good condition to play. He was a bit out of it. He was looking for drugs, and I guess he found some. And so the show never materialized. Frankly, Chet was at the concert, but he could not play when Paul was trying to play, and when he tried to play, he was not in the right song, so we had to walk him out of the stage, and it was a bit of a disgrace. The crowd was very upset, you know, screaming for their money back, and we were going to reimburse everybody, but since this was an 11 p.m. show, at midnight you don't find all the money that, you know, most of the tickets had been sold in advance, so we didn't have the money in the in the box office. So it was pretty messy situation, and Paul Bley played a solo concert in the end, only to see that Chet Baker at the hotel at 3 in the morning was walking around the band and wanted to get on the bandstand and jam, and I had to go to him and say, because I thought, well, we're going to be the laughing stock of the whole city. He did play his concert, and I was going to play for free in the hotel. No way. So I told him very brutally that if he played a single note of that trumpet, I would break it on his head, which was pretty rude. And I kind of regretted that, you know, because still he's a great artist, and I became kind of obsessed with him and would collect all of the records that I could get my hand on. And a few months later, I saw Chet Baker in New York City, playing in a small club, a small restaurant that had a jazz policy for a very short period. Was playing there with a quartet on a Sunday night. We had just walked out of a Motorhead concert at the Ritz, and then we went to this restaurant called Whippoorwill, and watched the first set. It was beautiful, and then so the contrast was total between Motorhead and Chet Baker, you guess. And I was with David Jobin at the time, programmer of the Jazz Festival. So we went to see him backstage, which was the kitchen of the restaurant, at the intermission between the two sets. And I asked Chet Baker if he remembered what happened in Montreal. He didn't remember nothing. He said, oh, Paul Bley, the guy can't play. But then he introduced us to Gil Evans. And David had been trying to connect with Gil Evans for years, and he had a hard time doing so. And then we had Gil Evans in front of us, and Chet introduced us to Gil Evans. So what happened to be a very bad turn of event for us at the festival that year turned out quite fine, because he compensated our sorrow with this meeting with Gil Evans that made for Gil Evans to play in the Jazz Festival the year after. So sometimes out of something very bad will come something good, you never know.